The first book of Adam and Eve, chapter 51. When Adam heard these words from Yahuwah, he took Eve and removed from the northern end of the garden to the south of it by the river of water, where they once fasted. But as they were going in the way, and before they reached that place, Satan, the wicked one, had heard the word of Yahuwah, communing with Adam respecting his covering. It grieved him, and he hastened to the place where the sheepskins were, with the intention of taking them and throwing them into the sea, or of burning them with fire, that Adam and Eve should not find them. But as he was about to take them, the word of Yahuwah came from Shamayim, heaven, and bound him by the side of those skins, until Adam and Eve came near him. But as they neared him, they were afraid of him, and of his hideous look. Then came the word of Yahuwah to Adam and Eve, and said to them, "This is he who was hidden in the serpent, and who deceived you, and stripped you of the garment of light and glory in which you were. This is he who promised you majesty and divinity. Where then is that beauty that was on him? Where is his divinity? Where is his light? Where is the glory that rested on him? Now his figure is hideous, and he has become abominable among Malachim, angels, and he has come to be called Satan. O Adam, he wished to take from you this earthly garment of sheepskins, and to destroy it, and not let you be covered with it. What then is his beauty that you should have followed him? And what have you gained by hearkening to him? See his evil works, and then look at me, your creator, and at the good deeds I do you. See, I bound him until you came and saw him and beheld his weakness, that no power is left with him. And Yahuwah released him from his bonds." Chapter 52. After this, Adam and Eve said no more, but wept before Yahuwah on account of their creation and of their bodies that required an earthly covering. Then Adam said unto Eve, "O Eve, this is the skin of beasts with which we shall be covered. But when we have put it on, behold, a token of death shall have come upon us, inasmuch as the owners of these skins have died and have wasted away. So also shall we die and pass away." Then Adam and Eve took the skins and went back to the cave of treasures, and when in it they stood and prayed as they were wont. And they thought how they could make garments of those skins, for they had no skill for it. Then Yahuwah sent to them his Malach to show them how to work it out. And the Malach said to Adam, "Go forth and bring some palm thorns." Then Adam went out and brought some, as the Malach had commanded him. Then the Malach began before them to work out the skins, after the manner of one who prepares a shirt. And he took the thorns and struck them into the skins before their eyes. Then the Malach again stood up and prayed Yahuwah that the thorns in those skins should be hidden, so as to be, as it were, sewn with one thread. And so it was, by Yahuwah's order, they became garments for Adam and Eve, and he clothed them withal. From that time, the nakedness of their bodies was covered from the sight of each other's eyes. And this happened at the end of the 51st day. Then when Adam's and Eve's bodies were covered, they stood and prayed and sought mercy of Yahuwah and forgiveness, and gave him thanks for that he had mercy on them and had covered their nakedness. And they ceased not from prayer the whole of that night. Then when the morn dawned at the rising of the sun, they said their prayers after their custom, and went out of the cave. And Adam said unto Eve, Since we know not what there is to the westward of this cave, let us go forth and see it today. Then they came forth and went towards the western border. Chapter 53. They were not very far from the cave when Satan came towards them and hid himself between them and the cave under the form of 2 ravenous lions, 3 days without food, that came towards Adam and Eve, as if to break them in pieces and devour them. Then Adam and Eve wept and prayed to Yahuwah to deliver them from their paws. Then the word of Yahuwah came to them and drove away the lions from them. And Yahuwah said unto Adam, O Adam, what seekest thou on the western border? And why hast thou left of thine own accord the eastern border, in which was thy dwelling place? Now then turn back to thy cave, and remain in it, that Satan do not deceive thee, nor work his purpose upon thee. For in this western border, O Adam, there will go forth from thee a seed that shall replenish it, and that will defile themselves with their sins, and with their yielding to the behests of Satan, and by following his works. Therefore will I bring upon them the waters of a flood, and overwhelm them all. But I will deliver what is left of the righteous among them, and I will bring them to a distant land. And the land in which thou dwellest now shall remain desolate, and without one inhabitant in it. After Yahuwah had thus discoursed to them, they went back to the cave of treasures. But their flesh was dried up, and their strength failed from fasting and praying, and from the sorrow they felt at having trespassed against Yahuwah. Chapter 54. Then Adam and Eve stood up in the cave and prayed the whole of that night until the morning dawned. And when the sun was risen, they both went out of the cave, their heads wandering from heaviness of sorrow, and they not knowing whither they went. And they walked thus unto the southern border of the garden, and they began to go up that border until they came to the eastern border, beyond which there was no farther space. And the cherub who guarded the garden was standing at the western gate, and guarding it against Adam and Eve, lest they should suddenly come into the garden. And the cherub turned round, as if to put them to death, according to the commandment Yahuwah had given them. When Adam and Eve came to the eastern border of the garden, thinking in their hearts that the cherub was not watching as they were standing by the gate, as if wishing to go in, suddenly came the cherub with a flashing sword of fire in his hand, and when he saw them, he went forth to kill them. For he was afraid lest Yahuwah should destroy him if they went into the garden without his order. And the sword of the cherub seemed to flame afar off. But when he raised it over Adam and Eve, the flame thereof did not flash forth. Therefore did the cherub think that Yahuwah was favorable to them, and was bringing them back into the garden. And the cherub stood wondering. He could not go up to Shamayim, heaven to ascertain Yahuwah's order regarding their getting into the garden. He therefore abode, standing by them, unable as he was to part from them, for he was afraid lest they should enter the garden without leave from Yahuwah. Who then would destroy him? When Adam and Eve saw the cherub coming towards them with a flaming sword of fire in his hand, they fell on their faces from fear, as dead. At that time the heavens, Shamayim, oath, and the earth shook, and the other cherubim came down from Shamayim to the cherub who guarded the garden, and saw him amazed and silent. Then again other Malachim came down nigh unto the place where Adam and Eve were. They were divided between joy and sorrow. They were glad because they thought that Yahuwah was favorable to Adam, and wished him to return to the garden, and wished to restore him to the gladness he once enjoyed. But they sorrowed over Adam, because he was fallen like a dead man, he and Eve. And they said in their thoughts, Adam has not died in this place, but Yahuwah has put him to death for his having come to this place and wishing to get into the garden without his leave. Chapter 55. Then came the word of Yahuwah to Adam and Eve, and raised them from their dead state, saying unto them, Why came ye up hither? Do you intend to go into the garden from which I brought you out? It cannot be today, but only when the covenant I have made with you is fulfilled. Then Adam, when he heard the word of Yahuwah, and the fluttering of the Malachim, whom he did not see, but only heard the sound of them with his ears, he and Eve wept, and said to the Malachim, O spirits who wait upon Yahuwah, look upon me, and upon my being unable to see you. For when I was in my former bright nature, then I could see you. I sang praises as you do, and my heart was far above you. But now that I've transgressed, that bright nature is gone from me, and I am come to this miserable state. And now am I come to this, that I cannot see you, and you do not serve me as you were wont, for I am become animal flesh. Yet now, O Malachim of Yahuwah, ask Yahuwah with me to restore me to that wherein I was formerly, to rescue me from this misery, and to remove me from the sentence of death he passed upon me for having trespassed against him. Then when the Malachim heard these words, they all grieved over him, and cursed Satan, who had beguiled Adam, until he came from the garden to misery, from life to death, from peace to trouble, and from gladness to a strange land. Then the Malachim said unto Adam, Thou didst hearken to Satan, and didst forsake the word of Yahuwah, who created thee, and thou didst believe that Satan would fulfill all he had promised thee. But now, O Adam, we will make known to thee what came upon us through him before his fall from Shamayim. He gathered together his hosts and deceived them, promising them to give them a great kingdom, a divine nature, and other promises he made them. His hosts believed that his word was true, so they yielded to him and renounced the kavod, glory of Elohim. He then sent for us, according to the orders in which we were, to come under his command, and to hearken to his vain promise. But we would not, and we took not his advice. Then after he had fought with Yahuwah, and had dealt forwardly with him, he gathered together his hosts, and made war with us. And if it had not been for Yahuwah's strength that was with us, we could not have prevailed against him, to hurl him from Shamayim. But when he fell from among us, there was great joy in Shamayim because of his going down from us. For he had continued in Shamayim. For had he continued in Shamayim, nothing, not even one Malach, would have remained in it. But Yahuwah in his mercy drove him from among us to this dark earth, for he had become darkness itself and a worker of unrighteousness. And he had continued, O Adam, to make war against thee, until he beguiled thee and make thee come out of the garden, to this strange land, where all these trials have come to thee, and death, which Yahuwah brought upon him, he has also brought to thee, O Adam, because thou didst obey him, and didst transgress against Yahuwah. Then all the Malachim rejoiced and praised Yahuwah, and asked him not to destroy Adam this time, for having sought to enter the garden, but to bear with him until the fulfillment of the promise, and to help him in this world until he was free from Satan's hand. Chapter 56. Then came the word of Yahuwah to Adam, and said unto him, O Adam, look at that garden of joy, and at this earth of toil, and behold the Malachim, angels, who are in the garden, that is full of them, and see thyself alone on this earth, with Satan, whom thou didst obey. Yet if thou hadst submitted and been obedient to me, and hadst kept my word, thou wouldst be with my Malachim in my garden. But when thou didst transgress and hearken to Satan, thou didst become his guest among his Malachim that are full of wickedness, and thou camest to this earth that brings forth to thee thorns and thistles. O Adam, ask him who deceived thee to give thee the divine nature he promised thee, or to make thee a garden as I had made for thee, or to fill thee with that same bright nature with which I had filled thee. Ask him to make thee a body like the one I made thee, or to give thee a day of rest as I gave thee, or to create within thee a reasonable soul, as I did create for thee, or to remove thee hence to some other earth than this one which I gave thee. But, O Adam, he will not fulfill even one of the things he told thee. Acknowledge then my favor towards thee, and my mercy on thee, my creature, that I have not requited thee for thy transgression against me, but in my pity for thee, I have promised thee that at the end of the great 5 days and a half I will come and save thee. Then Yahuwah said again to Adam and Eve, Arise, go down hence, lest the cherub with a sword of fire in his hand destroy you. But Adam's heart was comforted by Yahuwah's words to him, and he worshipped before him. And Yahuwah commanded his Malachim to escort Adam and Eve to the cave with joy, instead of the fear that had come upon them. Then the Malachim took up Adam and Eve, and brought them down from the mountain by the garden with songs and psalms, until they brought them to the cave. There the Malachim began to comfort and to strengthen them. and then departed from them towards Shamayim, heaven, to their Creator, who had sent them. But after the Malachim were gone from Adam and Eve, came Satan with shamefacedness, and stood at the entrance of the cave in which were Adam and Eve. He then called to Adam and said, O Adam, come, let me speak to thee. Then Adam came out of the cave, thinking he was one of Yahuwah's Malachim that was come to give him some good counsel. Chapter 57. But when Adam came out and saw his hideous figure, he was afraid of him, and said unto him, Who art thou? Then Satan answered and said unto him, It is I, who hid myself within the serpent, and who talked to Eve, and beguiled her, until she hearkened to my command. I am he who sent her through the wiles of my speech to deceive thee, until thou and she ate of the fruit from the fruit of the tree, and ye came away from under the command of Yahuwah. But when Adam heard these words from him, he said unto him, Canst thou make me a garden as Yahuwah made for me? Or canst thou clothe me in the same bright nature in which Yahuwah had clothed me? Where is the divine nature thou didst promise to give me? Where is that fair speech of thine thou didst hold with us at first, when we were in the garden? Then Satan said unto Adam, Thinkest thou that when I have spoken to one about anything, I shall ever bring it to him, or fulfill my word? Not so, for I myself have never even thought of obtaining what I ask. Therefore did I fall, and did I make you fall by that for which I myself fell, and with you also, whosoever accepts my counsel falls thereby. But now, O Adam, by reason of thy fall, thou art under my rule, and I am king over thee, because thou hast hearkened to me, and hast transgressed against thy Elohim. Neither will there be any deliverance from my hands until the day promised thee by Yahuwah. Again he said, Inasmuch as we do not know the day agreed upon with thee by Yahuwah, nor the hour in which thou shalt be delivered, for that reason we will multiply war and murder upon thee and thy seed after thee. This is our will and our good pleasure, that we may not leave one of the sons of men to inherit our orders in Shamayim. For as to our abode, O Adam, it is in burning fire, and we will not cease our evil doing, no, not one day, nor 1 hour. And I, Adam, shall sow fire upon thee when thou comest into the cave to dwell there. When Adam heard these words, he wept and mourned, and said unto Eve, Hear what he said, that he will not fulfill aught of what he told thee in the garden? Did he really then become king over us? But we will ask Yahuwah, who created us, to deliver us out of his hands. Chapter 58. Then Adam and Eve spread their hands unto Yahuwah, praying and entreating him to drive Satan away from them, that he do them no violence, and do not force them to deny Yahuwah. Then Yahuwah sent to them at once his Malach, who drove away Satan from them. This happened about sunset on the 53rd day after they had come out of the garden. Then Adam and Eve went into the cave and stood up and turned their faces to the earth to pray to Yahuwah. But ere they prayed, Adam said unto Eve, Lo, thou hast seen what temptations have befallen us in this land. Come, let us arise and ask Yahuwah to forgive us the sins we have committed, and we will not come out until the end of the day next to the 40th. And if we die herein, he will save us. Then Adam and Eve arose and joined together in entreating Yahuwah. They abode thus, praying in the cave, neither did they come out of it by night or by day, until their prayers went up out of their mouths like a flame of fire. Chapter 59. But Satan, the hater of all good, did not allow them to end their prayers, for he called to his hosts, and they came, all of them. He then said to them, Since Adam and Eve, whom we beguiled, have agreed together to pray to Yahuwah night and day, and to entreat him to deliver them, and since they will not come out of the cave until the end of the 40th day, and since they will continue their prayers, as they have both agreed to do, that he will deliver them out of our hands, and restore them to their former state, see what we shall do unto them. And his hosts said unto him, Power is thine, O our Lord, to do what thou listest. Then Satan, great in wickedness, took his hosts, and came into the cave in the 30th night of the 40 days and 1, and he smote Adam and Eve, until he left them dead. Then came the word of Yahuwah unto Adam and Eve, who raised them from their suffering. And Yahuwah said unto Adam, Be strong, and be not afraid of him, who has just come to thee. But Adam wept and said, Where wast thou, O my Yahuwah, that they should smite me with such blows, and that this suffering should come upon us, upon me, and upon Eve, thy handmaid? Then Yahuwah said unto him, O Adam, see, he is Lord and Master of all thou hast. He who said he would give thee divinity. Where is this love for thee? And where is the gift he promised? For once has it pleased him, O Adam, to come to thee, to comfort thee, and to strengthen thee, and to rejoice with thee, and to send his host to guard thee, because thou hast hearkened to him, and hast yielded to his counsel, and hast transgressed my commandment, but hast followed his behest. Then Adam wept before Yahuwah, and said, O Adonai, because I transgressed a little, thou hast sorely plagued me in return. For it, I ask thee to deliver me out of his hands, or else have pity on me, and take my soul out of my body now in this strange land. Then Yahuwah said unto Adam, If only there had been this sighing and praying before, ere thou didst transgress, then wouldest thou have rest from the trouble in which thou art now. But Yahuwah had patience with Adam, and let him and Eve remain in the cave until they had fulfilled the 40 days. But as to Adam and Eve, their strength and flesh withered from fasting and praying, from hunger and thirst, for they had not tasted either food or drink since they left the garden, nor were the functions of their bodies yet settled, and they had no strength left to continue in prayer from hunger until the end of the next day, to the 40th. They were fallen down in the cave, yet what speech escaped from their mouths was only in praises.